Hi, my name is Darren, and much of my art education centered around painting, drawing, kind of fine art work. And when I started working with glass around 10 years ago, I always wanted to try and combine those skills and disciplines within the blown glass work that I created. This has led me over the years to experiment with a number of techniques, but really I've focused in on the Graal technique, which allows a painted or engraved image to be encapsulated under a layer of clear glass. Graal is a Swedish term which loosely translates as grail or cup and describes the shape of the first object made in this process. Once they've made a cup, I'll work into the surface using various enamels, mediums and tools to either scratch or paint on an image. This decorated cup will then be taken back to the glassworks and slowly reheated in a kiln before being reattached to a blowing iron. And the aim is to then cover that painted cup with a layer of clear glass around 1000 degrees C. And then at that point you can treat the object like any other piece of blown glass, with the main difference being your imagery is trapped between the layers. And because it's suspended in a liquid, this imagery will grow and distort and move as the glass moves. When the piece is finished, it's slowly cooled to room temperature overnight, and the imagery will be permanently trapped between the layers of the glass.
Wonderful.
Now you know the idea.
Yeah.
So well,
Absolutely.
I really appreciated Alistair putting that video together, but I can't stand the sound of my own voice.
How long have you been doing it?
Well, my glass career kind of started at the University of Wolverhampton in 2005, I think it was. And it was during that time that I was introduced to kind of Graal as a process, but my skills were inadequate really to explore it. So it wasn't until, I'd say about 6 or 7 years ago, that I actually started to invest the time into trying to get results that I found to be pleasing. And in large part, Jonathan Harris gave me the opportunity to do that because I've spent 10 years working with him as well. So we've developed his Graal style as well through my skills, and it all kind of feeds into one pot.
And how many pieces do you think you've made so far?
As a glassmaker, oh, I dread to think. I don't think you can keep track of it that way.
Here's one piece.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
Barbara was one of my first customers really down at Broadfield.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I have to say the technique is very interesting, very colourful.
Barbara, I missed that. Could you show it again, please?
Yeah. Pepper.
Whoa!
Lovely.
Fantastic.
Barbara was very patient waiting for that to get to
I
her.
was. I was.
I'm still sorry about that.
How long ago was that, Barbara?
It's a few years.
I've got 2012 in my head for some reason. It was
That
part of an
sounds about
exhibition at
right.
Broadfield. Yeah. They wanted artists to respond to some items within Broadfield's collections, and I wanted to focus on the friggers, because they represented the glassmakers of the local area as opposed to the factories and companies that they worked for. So I did this series of oversized glass peppers with cane work in the top. Yeah.
When you worked with Jonathan Harris, was that in the Isle of Wight?
No, it was down at Coalport in Ironbridge. And
Right.
sadly, I still make glassware for Jonathan Harris, but I think our working relationship is going to change slightly because just before lockdown, unfortunately, the entire site was flooded by the River Severn.
Wow.
Oh, whoops.
It's flooded by the River Severn.
Yeah, so it's quite a heartbreaking scene to see. Well, it flooded, the waters receded, and then lockdown was announced. So it's still in a state that hasn't been addressed. So
We went there, just when Coalport was going.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, Darren, I've got your website. Shall we show some of the works that you've got on it, and you can talk?
feel free.
Yeah, it'll be
that'd
quite
lovely.
interesting to look at. Just a second.
I ask a quick question?
Yeah, do.
Darren, I'm fascinated by the way the colours seem to change during the process. Could you say something about that?
Yeah, so the example in the video there is done using an on-glaze enamel. So they're not really designed to be used with glass. Sorry, that's caught me off guard. See my website then. And a lot of glass colors change through the heat. So some lovely blues, when you're working them, they turn green. So you have to trust that you've chosen the right materials and the right colors well before you actually get into the hot shop and work it. Reds and yellows in particular can be quite temperamental. And I was very lucky with that piece in the video in that it struck up as a nice red again because it was on the verge of becoming brown, essentially, when it was annealed at night.
So do you have a good idea of how they're going to change during the process, or is it pure guesswork?
I do and I don't. There's been a lot of experimenting. And with the Graal work that I've started to do in the last few years, there's kind of two sides to it. So there's the painted Graal, which on the video you saw there, I've had to experiment a lot using various mediums because some don't react to the heat very well. And I've settled on two mediums for two different purposes. So there's an oil-based medium that allows me to mix these enamels and use them as a normal paint, but they're quite sticky. So that piece on the screen at the moment is a good example of that. But when I was experimenting with the oil mediums, some of them, as soon as they were introduced to the heat, they bubbled up and peeled off the surface of the glass. So it kind of instantly ruined it. And then the other side to how I've been doing it is using a gum arabic, which I'll apply a very even layer of enamel and then scratch back through it. So I'm using the color of the glass underneath to create the design, like the digital landscape piece on the screen at the moment. So that was a...
Never think they were glass, was it?
No, it's quite interesting because there's the qualities of ceramics almost with it. When you do turn them in your hands, you can tell that they're glass, but from a distance, it doesn't betray the material really. And I found that quite interesting because I still want to develop this further and make use of the qualities of glass that everybody knows and loves. So the transparency and the way kind of colored glass can glow. So yeah, it's a constantly evolving thing really. And then alongside all the Graal work I do, kind of my bread and butter work, like the fiber range. So very much set design, set colors and made to order. But that's the kind of work that allows me to do the fun stuff like the Graal pieces.
Do some of the Graal pieces break when you're going through the various heating up, cooling down processes?
I've been quite fortunate in that we've ironed out those kinks. So there's always an element of trusting the compatibility. And they don't so much as break as just go wrong, if that makes sense. I mean, some of the worst things we had kiln failures where we've loaded a kiln with 5 or 6 painted Graal pieces, and then we have to slowly bring them up to about 500 or 600 degrees before we can work them the next day. And the kiln has overshot that. So we've opened the lid to just find a melted pool of quite a few days worth of work. But glass can be fickle like that, and you just have to get back on with it. Yeah.
You don't have to worry about the paint being any particular coefficient of expansion or anything of the sort to seal with the glass.
If I knew the chemistry, I would worry about it a lot more. I've kind of done test pieces, and they're very modest tests that I know work and achieve the results that I want. So I do worry about it, but like the piece on the screen at the moment, I lived with that for a year before I even brought it to be for sale for anybody, just to make sure that it wasn't going to go anywhere. But that, for example, was a scarlet red blank. So the red is actually glass, and then the white is the enamel. So I scratched through.
That's great. I mean,
oh, that's technique. It's from clear glass to what you produced there.
But a lot of these techniques, as I say, I developed alongside Jonathan Harris. So there's a bit of him in my work and a bit of me in his work these days.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
that's fine.
Could I just ask, Darren, is that engraving or is that paint as well
Oh.
on those items, the evergreen Graal?
The evergreen one, it is painted. So that was in the video that we showed very early on, and that clip is actually on my Instagram page if you did want to see the time lapse of me actually painting the glass. It's quite hard to talk about these things because you do them and then move on, and I've forgotten the intricacies of, I'd have to look at my sketchbooks and my notes as to what I actually mixed together to do. I haven't done much, well, what I would consider to be traditional Graal. So a traditional kind of Swedish Graal piece would be layers of glass color that then get cut back through. And
over engraving or whatever.
Yeah. But I haven't had the facilities to do a fine engraving or the time to invest to get those kind of results. I'm coming from a kind of fine art background where, you know, I did aspire to be a painter when I was a younger man. The techniques of painting on glass were what drove me to try and work in that way.
Darren, you are obviously a lover of trees. Do you find that the shape and the colours are what attract you to putting this onto glass? Because it works very well in your large vases.
Yeah, it goes through phases as to what I like to work with, and the landscapes are something that wouldn't offend people while I was working out the process of engraving and painting on Graal pieces. I became a bit obsessed with kind of these atomic comic book imagery at one point. So I did do a couple of pieces with kind of a mushroom cloud on there. And I realized that could be quite offensive to people when somebody was watching it being made, and as soon as they realized what the imagery was, they left the room. So I think I need to be careful as to what images I explore. But what I really like in terms of my own influences, I do like kind of graphic drawings, not necessarily comics, but very much high contrast, black and white. Mm-hmm. And the way I've developed the Graal work, it's like drawing with a pen. I've actually got a prop just behind me. So I don't know if you can see here. So this is a blue glass. It's a clear glass blank with a blue layer on the inside. And this is the enamel using a gum arabic. So it's a very sturdy surface. And with some wood carving tools, you can start to make your lines, and as you go through it, create your design. But the way I reason it has been like working with pen and ink is every line is permanent. There's no way of going back and adding more enamel because it just ruins everything around it. So I try to plan the imagery out as much as I can. I don't do a set drawing that I'm going to meticulously copy back onto the glass, but I like to draw things several times so that it's kind of muscle memory, and then approach the piece of glass as a new drawing. But if it goes wrong, there's nothing to do but start again, sadly.
Isn't that why you have tree trunks? Because it started off as a branch and you thought, oh dear, it's going to be wide.
Landscapes are very forgiving imagery to work with.
Jonathan uses a lot of silver in his work. Do you like silver in your work, or do you prefer the more natural woodland look?
I haven't embraced it. I think there's part of me feels like that I'd be stepping on Jonathan's toes in a way. The way he uses silver leaf, when we make a blank, the shape of the blanks we make are very different to what I've just shown you. But we put several layers of silver leaf on there, and you'll engrave through that silver very quickly, and it creates a stark, I don't know how to say it without sounding really harsh, but it's like a cutout image. They're fantastic images, but it doesn't have that kind of handmade feel to it. And if I can work out how to use the silver with a more handmade feel, I think I'll try and work it in. But silver is one of those things with the glass that you tend to create reactions, and it's a whole new path of experimentation and seeing what works with the enamels and what will burn out and so on. Tricky. I like playing with the glass. I just can't afford to do it too much. But I can show you one last prop if you just bear with me one moment. So I did a painted Graal piece just prior, I think it was this time last year, but I don't know if you can make out from there. You can see all of this breaking up. Literally, as I introduced the glass to the heat of the reheating chamber, all of the enamel started to peel away from the surface. It was like watching a flower bloom.
Oh, it's on sort of.
So I've put this in half. So the interior of the blank was a grey glass, and you can't really see through the layers, but the paint was literally just lifting off the surface. And it was quite heartbreaking to watch at the time, but I don't know.
So Darren, could I just ask, in that lovely evergreen piece you showed us,
yes,
the green foliage was engraved through the green glass, was it?
No, so that's the blank for that piece was a lovely opaque green on the interior, and then that was surrounded by a black glass, and then I painted all of the tree work on top of that. If I could, am I able to share my screen here?
Yes, you can. Just a second.
Okay.
Okay, you can share now.
Okay. I did put some images in a folder. I think that just about shows. So the green on the interior there, that was a glass green, and you can't see any of the black that was surrounding that. And then all of this is enameled onto the surface of that blank and then trapped under the clear glass. I'm not sure if you can make out from this image. A lot of the enamels tend to disappear. Yeah. So I remember when I painted these were very definite, bold strokes. And through the heat, you do lose some of the vibrancy of these enamels. Like I say, they're designed for the ceramics industry, and I think it's just look that they're compatible with the glass that we use. which I shouldn't really say that, should I?
Why not?
But that was the video that was incorporated. Sorry, has that gone off your screens? Can you see that video?
You can see it.
Yes. Yeah.
We can see.
Yeah, so you can see my source material in the background there. And like I say, it was quite a learning curve and experimentation with the mediums, because when I first tried to do this, I did use a gum arabic because it's nice and water-based. But the problem with that is when you paint on the surface and it dries and you try to overpaint it, you rehydrate the enamels and just wipe off what you've done already. So I used an oil base on this and then worked through it that way. So sadly, there's no engraving at all on these particular pieces.
Do you find different colours are more susceptible to different heat temperatures?
Yeah, like I say, reds and yellows, and purples particularly. Typically, they're all the expensive colours as well.
Yeah.
But it's the same with the glass colours we use in the hot shop for normal use, you know, things like scarlet red and gold ruby. They're very temperamental colours, but when you get it right, they're absolutely beautiful. There was a company when I was studying called Paradise Paints, and they produced a range of enamels that were designed for this purpose, but they stopped producing them in around 2010, I think it was. So I never got to play with them, but I've seen examples in the wild that the vibrancy of the colour was just fantastic. And I haven't found a kind of onglaze enamel that achieves that same vibrancy. So this is one of the reasons why a lot of my recent work has been kind of black and white and more graphic, because I feel like I can make a bolder statement with that.
The vase with red leaves on, that looked pretty vibrant.
Yeah, I did get lucky with that one.
Pretty natural.
But I can show you, if you indulge me in sharing my screen again.
Go on.
Where are we? Share, painted. So this was the blank as it was in my studio, completely painted, and the red is fantastic. You know, I'm really hoping that it would stay that way. And on the final piece, it is fantastic red. However, you can see how transparent it's become. And you can even see here where I should have gone over everything a second time, because I've painted one leaf over the top of the other one. You've got a much denser mix there. But it's an oversimplified sketch, as it were, after looking at some William Morris wallpaper. And I did quite like the fact that this looked distressed once it was finished. I think you only ever see distressed wallpaper these days.
But the transparency is delightful still. It adds an extra element to it.
I think it's a very honest depiction of the process, to be honest, because it betrays what's gone on there. Because you can see the texture of my undercoat almost, you know, in these vertical lines here. And even the green, which was incredibly dense when I put it on there, has started to go transparent. And I really like that. You know, I know some artists that would be very upset that their original vision hasn't completely translated to the final piece, but I don't know, I like the fact that the glass has changed what I've done. You know, there's a compromise between me and the material.
That's lovely.
It's lovely. Mm.
Thank you.
I mean, the fact that you can see sort of the irregularity of some of the brush strokes, etc., I think really adds to the presence.
Yeah, it is a shame almost that I can't keep some of this texture in the final piece. And I don't know if that thickness of enamel work has led to some problems with the process in terms of, like I was describing before, of it peeling off the surface. Trying to find these smaller blanks here. You know, I did like the fact that you can see the brush strokes in it, and that's permanently within the glass there.
Oh, they're lovely.
That's stunning.
Nice. Yeah.
Do you sell from an online shop as well as?
I took the opportunity to revamp my website when we went into lockdown. It felt like the only productive thing I could do at that point, aside from file my tax return. So I do have a selling platform on my own website, and there are a number of Graal pieces on there. It's difficult because I've sent work like this out to galleries, and because they're so bespoke one-off pieces, they're quite hard to promote widely, I should say. So I thought if I can have a selling platform where I can sell the one-off pieces and provide galleries with the more kind of production-orientated designs that I do alongside the Graal pieces, that would be a wise thing to do. But in terms of my working life, I sell my services as a glassmaker. So within the local area, you know, Jonathan Harris, Mr. Malcolm, down the road there's Vic Bamforth and so on. I get around, and what I really thrive on as a glassmaker is helping other artists achieve their vision. You know, so I work with a lot of people that don't blow glass themselves, but they're keen designers and really want to work with glass within their own work. And I like the problem solving of it. I really like that, getting stuck in and trying to achieve somebody else's aesthetic.
Well, you look very successful on those pieces that you've shown us.
Yeah.
Really lovely.
Very unique.
Yeah, they're nice. I love the paperweights too. You've got some lovely work with the internal twists and things with the paperweights.
It's really tricky because I don't have my own studio with a furnace and all of the glass making equipment. I've been very much reliant on using studios around the Stourbridge area, and then like Jonathan Harris is down in Coalport. And one of the reasons why I've gravitated to the Graal technique is because I can make a few blanks in the morning, and then do some production work in the afternoon when I do a day's hire. But I can go away and I can still be productive by working on the Graals and doing that away from the hot shop, and really taking my time over it. Whereas the production side of things and just cranking out blown glass for people is not something I want to do forever, but I do enjoy it at the moment.
Presumably it pays the bills.
Yes, that's the bread and butter.
Yeah.
Because it's so difficult these days to, well, every couple of years I try to price up putting together my own hot glass works, and the figures never add up for me.
Can we see some of the paperweights?
Yeah, sure. I'll put some up for you.
It'd be nice to see the.
Let's just have a look and. That's just a second.
Hello, Janice.
Oh, she's gone again.
Oh yes, I see.
Yeah, this is the thing.
Like ribbons.
Lovely.
Lovely. Oh wow, they're wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
That's brilliant. Very tactile looking.
Oh, lovely. Yes, thanks.
I love that one. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
This with the twist inside, it was my way of initially recycling some of the offcuts of coloured glass that we use. So many of the transparent colours we use, we buy as bars from Kugler in Germany. And to break them up to the right size, we just hit them with the broad edge of a file. So you'll get these small kind of 2 penny piece size slithers of glass, which are not usable for much else, but blowing them up into these paperweights is a really nice way of minimizing waste, really.
You want to have a look at the shop? There you are.
Where is the shop?
It's
Online.
Right. Just
On-
there.
Thank you. Right, the sunflower.
Yeah, I did a whole series for an exhibition in the Pyramid Gallery in York, the end of last year. But sadly, a few of them came back to me.
Oh dear.
They'll find a home one day.
Are the candlesticks done in the same process?
So they're purely blown, and I do cheat with those. I haven't made these for many years, but the tops are made separate to the main stem, and then they're bonded together when they're cold.
I've got new ones.
Yeah.
But they're still lovely.
Thank
Well,
you.
everything in glass is lovely. To be quite honest about it.
Very tactile.
Yeah.
Tactile. These are beautiful.
Perhaps we'll get you down to one of our gatherings when we start again, and you can bring some down.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. I mean, everything looks different in the flesh.
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time trying to get the nicest images of my work onto the website, but it can still be quite deceptive, can't it? Especially with scale. I struggle demonstrating the scale of many of the pieces.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that was absolutely wonderful.
Spectacular.
I shall
Lovely.
log on to your website later.
Any feedback is appreciated. It's always
Well,
strange seeing your work through somebody else's eyes.
Have you got a piece in? Have you got some work you're doing at the moment?
I've got work planned. I want to do some work with, I don't want to say calligraphy, but I want to do some lettering based work. And like I was saying earlier, bring more of the qualities of glass into it. So more of the same techniques, just modified and moved on.
When you say calligraphy, will it be predominantly black?
No, this is the thing. I want to, I'm not achieving the vibrancy of color I want to with the enamels,
Right.
but I'm achieving a clarity of image with the enamels that I do want. So the whole idea is to work on the blanks more than the enamel side of things. So how do I describe a half-baked idea to you?
Well, no, because at the end of the day, it's only by experimenting that you find you come across something that might just actually work, isn't it?
Yeah. One of the things that I have been playing with during lockdown is some water gilding with gold leaf.
I was going to say, I mean, our charter, which was granted to us by Charles II, is regarded as one of the most decorative piece of calligraphy that you'll ever see. And if I remember, I'll send you a photograph of it.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
It might give you a little bit of inspiration.
Had the charter, didn't you?
Darren, can I ask you if you work with any glass engravers? Because I thought some Graal was blown and then engraved and then blown again. Is that?
That's absolutely correct. I mean, the original Graal pieces from Orifers, that was the process that they did it. So they would overlay several transparent and opaque colors and then cut back through the layers.
Yeah.
And that's very much how Jonathan Harris has been working. So I do a lot of that kind of blank making for him, to his specification, of course. But I've just never tried the engraving myself. You know, I've been in talks with people like Helen Millard and Nancy Sutcliffe to try and mine a bit of information out of them, but nothing beats sitting down and practicing, does it?
Just
Oh, well, it's got plenty of time to
Yeah, have you come across Alison Kinnaird?
Yes. I've never met her, but I'm very familiar with her
Right.
work.
Well, she's doing an exhibition which she was going to do at the Edinburgh Festival, but she's actually put it together in her own home in the studio.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to go and visit it in a couple of weeks' time online. But she did a presentation for us, and of course, the other thing that she's doing with some of her engraving now is that she's experimenting with light. And she puts things in frames, or she puts the glass engraving into frames, and the frames have actually got these little tiny lights in them, so that you can experiment with the. Thank you, Master. She can experiment with the different levels of the glass. I was looking at some of the pieces I've got. And I've got some pieces here in the house where I actually put lights inside so that you can actually see that the reflections of the different textures that you've got.
Yeah.
But some of yours, I think, would be too dense to put light inside.
I think what you're describing relies on the relief of the surface, because the light comes in from the sides and then outlines everything, doesn't it? And for the fact that I cover everything in hot glass, it immediately becomes a smooth surface again.
Yeah.
So where some of the pieces would probably illuminate quite nicely because they're technically transparent the way they've been scratched through, I'm not quite sure how to incorporate lighting into them just yet. But as I say, I've been playing with water gilding of gold, so looking at sheet glass and the applications of that. There's an artist that I've become a bit obsessed with, David Smith, if you've heard of him. He's a gilder, sign maker, absolute another level, top of his game artist. And he does some amazing things. So jealous of another artist in the UK, really. If you can get him to do a talk for you, you would be most entertained.
We will talk. You can give me his contact details.
Yeah, I'll find his website before we log off today.
Okay. What did you say his name was again?
I'm sure it's David Smith. Where are we?
Unusual name, really. Well, it could have been John Smith.
Yeah.
David Smith.
Well, while they're doing their thing, can I just say, in the old round table fashion, could I take wine with the lovely Janice Brockett? Who has appeared again.
I think we all ought to be taking wine with such an elegantly dressed lady today. Oh, not just today, but in general. But very elegant tonight.
Phew.
Cheers.
Good health, Janice.
Andy, you could unmute.
And I have to say, I'm very impressed with Sharon, who is wobbling her phone left, right, and centre whilst going at about 90 miles an hour.
She's driving as well.
Unmute. I'm not driving. You'll be pleased to know. But we're on about a 2-hour journey back. We've been visiting a friend whose husband who had dementia, and it took longer than we expected. So sorry for the delay and sorry for lack of internet at various times or connection.
No, you're doing very well.
Yeah, and sorry about the wobbling. That's the speedy driver I've got.
Well, I'm sure we can find you another driver if necessary.
But anyway, I'm sorry I missed the beginning of it, but it's so really interesting so far. I'll mute myself now, okay?
I mute. Yeah.
I'm impressed with Carrie, who seems to be offering us all a glass of champagne.
Yeah, she's celebrating.
She's collapsed behind them.
What are we celebrating?
She's back. There you are. She's back.
You're muted, Carrie. Still muted.
I have a new job.
Oh, congratulations.
I'm joining the new Land and Property Division at Surrey County Council, hopefully before the end of the month.
Oh, well done.
Well done. Whereabouts in
Now that I'm not sure, but by the conversation this morning, they don't seem to have any concerns about firing out laptops and iPad phones, you know, to one's home. So I don't think I'm going to be going to any meetings anytime soon, but I shall be working all the same, and that's a good thing.
Yes, well done.
Good, good.
Is that anything to do with the planning department?
No.
Goodness.
Quite the opposite. It's going to be development. I think I might be starting off in a couple of health centres and possibly getting involved in the relocation of the actual headquarters from Kingston.
To Woking or Guildford?
I'm not sure whether it's going to Guildford or not.
Well, nobody knows in Surrey County Council.
Yeah.
We're going to Woking, but Woking has, so I understand, decided not to welcome them in the same way they were going to.
Well, how very silly of Woking. Just imagine that number of people turning up every day and spending their money in your community. How daft.
Anyway, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, so don't believe what I said.
Darren,
I live in Surrey, so I get to hear the moans and groans.
Darren, are you talking about this gold leaf work that David Smith does?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I'll have a, just a second. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, that is the chap. There's
the script.
he is on an absolute another level in terms of his abilities and the things that he's done. And there's a lovely couple of videos on his website of the process and him talking about his work.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of videos on. It's quite.
That's like going back to the Victorian times, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's fantastic. The pictures aren't doing the detail justice that's in his work. You know, he does glue chipping to create the texture within the lettering. There's a lot of ground and polished lenses and scroll work.
That was right.
What was that?
Victorian reverse glass.
Yeah.
Well, that will be very interesting.
Yeah, if you do get hold of him, please invite me back. I'd love to.
Yeah, I say
get
it's
in
very
on that
interesting for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's quite stunning. Yeah. We'll have to see if we can get hold of him.
Oh.
See what we can do. Well, our time is nearly up, I think.
Well, Darren, can I just say, as the master of the Worshipful Company of Glass Sellers of London, thank you, seriously, thank you very, very much indeed. That was an absolute delight. And
was indeed.
Thank you very much for having me.
The process is something which I've never seen in the detail which you showed it. Would you describe it in any way as casing?
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's an element of it there. It's the casing is the make or break point. That's when I know things are going to work out or not. As I've said, glass can be a fickle material when it's hot.
A lovely material, hot or
Absolutely.
cold in my
So unusual, Darren.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much.
Really tremendous.
Yes.
I think John Poulton is showing us his glass window, leaded glass window, and the garden beyond. Is there a particular good reason, John? Are we going into your pond?
You're looking out to the North Sea on a summer's evening.
Very nice.
Genuine summer's evening.
Very nice indeed.
Well, I'm afraid my piece of glass is not as stunning as the piece of glass that we've been looking at. But it does have something very precious inside it, a little bit of rosé. But thank you very much, Darren. And I think, can we all give Darren a great...
Absolutely.
You'll have me blushing.
Thank you very much. It was great. Please give our regards to your colleagues at the White Cone, Alison,
Will do.
and say hi from us.
and I hope that Jonathan Harris will get up and running again before too long.
Yeah, we have been making work using somebody else's studio, so he's still going, but I'm not
Great.
quite sure it'll be quite the same as it was, but we'll see. You know,
The new normal.
the new normal. Yes.
Well, everybody in the glass cellars, please look after yourselves as well.
Thank you, Master.
Stay well.
And
Please.
yes, okay, fine.
Thank
Next, what have I got next week? Next week, we're going into the world of interior design and glass, courtesy of our new Australian Freeman.
Oh, well done.
That should be very exciting next week. All right, everybody, stay safe, and I'll say good night to you all.
Yeah, thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much. Take care, everyone.
Cheers. Bye-bye.